let's go. Let's roll. We move on to another spot. And, I jumped on the Bears last week when it got to 5.5. And to me, it was ridiculous that it got to 5.5 against the Saints team without their best two receivers. The Saints still pulled off the win 26-23, but the Bears are clearly being disrespected. And there's a 5.5 on the board for the Titans. I'll be shocked if it's here when this show's over. And now I'm all confident. And it builds with me. Now that I don't have a Tuesday morning show, I spend all morning, all day, all night, and I work on Monday night as well, preparing to be able to break down these games. And it's been hours and hours and hours, and it takes me a little while to build up the confidence on a certain play. And if I had more time, because it takes a long time to break down all these games, I would already have bet the Bears. This is a beautiful spot for a good football team. I think the Bears are a really good football team, and we're going to be able to take advantage of a second straight loss here. 73 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. The 5-3 Bears, 3-1 on the road, going at Tennessee, 5-2, 3-1 at home. Bears were in tough. They have an injury-riddled offensive line. We knew they didn't have James Daniels. James Daniels with that pectoral injury, he's out for the season, so he's out. Then they didn't have Cody Whitehair, their center, in the lineup. And then right tackle Bobby Massey hurts his knee on Chicago's first possession. They were in big trouble. They have no running game. They have no offensive line. They still get 96 yards rushing. Montgomery runs 21 times for 89 yards. Is that a sign of the Saints having a bad rush defense? Probably, but at least it gives them a little bit of confidence that they could possibly move the ball on the ground. They ranked 29th in total yards, 31st in rushing through Sunday. Foles, 28 of 41 for 272 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. He has been struggling. He had a better game against the Saints. I'm happy they didn't go back to Trubisky. You've got to go with Big Dick Foles. Robinson, 6 catches for 87 yards. He comes back from a concussion. He's their leading receiver. Anthony Miller, 8 catches for 73 yards. And then Darnell Mooney out of Tulane has his best game of his career, young career, 5 catches for 69 yards, 1 TD. Wims is a slapper. Let him face slap anything. He's gone for 2 games. It doesn't matter because Mooney's going to take over that spot. Robert Harris, the defensive end, is hurt. John Jenkins, ankle, left Sunday's game. Bebsy, before I get into the Titans, am I too bullish on the Bears? Because I see this Bears team at 5-3 and think value. Let's bet on them here.
Well, no, I don't think you are too bullish on them. I do believe there is some value. You are right. They are being disrespected, and they're being disrespected because their offense is terrible, but their defense shows up. Time and again, they show up. And I'm not saying this just because the Titans lost to the Bengals last week. I'm saying this because the Titans tend to play up and down with their competition. And I just think it's too many points here that the Titans have been given. So I lean Bears in this one. I do think you're getting a little too excited with the way you're talking about the Bears. It's still the Bears. They still don't have an offense. But in this game, I think I would be with you because of the points. There's a lot of points given to the Titans out the gates here. And, they certainly didn't play inspiring last week, but I just think it's a lot to give up against this Bears team who we know they can play defense.
Maybe I said they're a really good football team. Al Cervic caught me on this. Let's say just good football team. And then as soon as I get confident, as soon as I'm ready to pull the trigger, Birdie says this, Bears have some COVID. So I don't have that information. That maybe I need to wait and see. Do you have any information, Bebsy, on Bears COVID?
Well, I was saying to you there was a bunch of games not posted earlier,
and this was one of them?
I don't think this was one of them. Most of them have filled in now.
Okay. Birdie says an offensive lineman and one guy sheltered because of closeness to the offensive lineman. Okay, well that'll. Jorge Rodrigo says Bears are trash. Titans cover. That'll give me pause because the Bears cannot lose anyone from their offensive line. We went over it. They lost Daniels for the year, and then if Whitehair and Bobby Massey that are questionable, and then they lose. Okay, so
offensive tackle Jason Spriggs, Vipers on that.
Oh, thank you guys, Viper and Christian Larson. Thank you guys. Okay, so then that's gonna. Let's talk about. Let me just put this note here. Let's talk about these Titans because they're coming off their second straight loss, and it was just because it was the Bengals that I had to build up confidence throughout the week to bet against the Titans. But I don't see the Titans as that good of a football team. Certainly not as good as 5-2. Even that, not as good as their record indicates. Coming off second straight loss, 30-21 at the Bengals. Derrick Henry, 18 carries for 112 yards. We talked about how the Bengals were going to get destroyed by the running game, but still, I don't know what to make of Tannehill. And it's crazy to say that about a guy you watch week in and week out, year after year. But he was outplayed by Burrow. He went 18 for 30, 233 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. I like him. I like that he steps up late in games when everything's on the line. I like that he, played multiple positions in college, and there's so much to like about him. But when it comes down to executing throughout a game, I just don't see him do that. He's got character. He steps up. But A.J. Brown had an off game, and, man, Corey Davis, 8 catches for 128 yards. Bebsy, how long have we been waiting for Corey Davis to step up like that?
I mean, since they drafted him, I was one of those numpties who was looking at Corey Davis in the draft and thinking I was looking at the next Reggie Wayne, and I couldn't have been more wrong about that. But yeah, he played a heck of a game last week, and he's showed spots of that player he was in college, but I don't know how consistent that is. And with regards to Ryan Tannehill, I think we do know who he is. He's an excellent athlete, and he's a solid quarterback. I don't think he got a fair shake in Miami. He was thrown to the Wolves a lot there, but this guy isn't a game wrecker. This guy's not going to come in and pick a defensive apart. They have to play one specific style of offense, and that's Derrick Henry smashing the ball over and over and over, and then things open up. And Ryan Tannehill is more than capable of doing things when they open up. I like him in that spot. I root for the guy. I do, because any guy who gets thrown to the Wolves that early in his career and gets a resurgence, I end up having a soft spot for them. A lot of that has to do with Alex Smith. But look, they have one style of game that they can play, and the problem is if they get too far down in games, then Henry can't beat up teams in the third and fourth quarter.
I agree. And you broke down the offense very well. The offense is very strong. It's the defense. This defense continues to struggle. They allowed the Bengals to convert 10 of 15 third downs. This year, opponents are hitting 61.8% on third down against them. Now, they picked up cornerback Desmond King today from the Chargers for a sixth rounder. I don't have it in front of me. They pick him up off the Chargers, and immediately he's going to be a top cornerback for them immediately. That's how bad their defense is. Now, it was a good pickup. They cut Vic Beasley after 5 games. They cut him today. So they give Jadeveon Clowney, who we see bounce from team to team to team. And we're not talking about tennis here. It's a team sport. And when you watch a prospect like Clowney get bounced around like a truck stop hooer, you realize that there's something wrong with his character. And
I don't know if it's so much Clowney's character as it is the fact that this guy made millions of dollars off of one college highlight. And it was maybe the most spectacular defensive college highlight anyone has ever seen. Now, he never lived up to that billing, but in his head, he deserves that that massive contract, and teams just aren't willing to do it. I think that has more to do with him bouncing around. He is a very solid defensive lineman, but this guy wants $20 million a season. That's it. He's just nowhere near that good. Most incredible defensive highlight in college football ever, and the guy's still getting paid from that.
They paid $13 million for him this year, and that was a waste of money. They paid $9.5 million to Beasley. Obviously, they cut him after 5 games, which I despise. I hate that you could just cut a player at 5 games in a sport like this where you're risking your life every time you step on the field. I hate that they can just cut these players. It makes me angry, but let's do that another time. Bring in Desmond King. They have Adam Humphries in concussion protocol. As soon as I find out about the Bears' offensive line, I'm going to back the Bears here. So that's going to hold me back from making this bet tonight. Bebsy, what do you think of this total at 46.5?
If anything, I lean under in this just because I think the Bears' defense can kind of hem them in. And I really don't see, even against this weak Tennessee defense, I don't see Foles lighting them up. So I do lean on the under in this. I don't know if I'm excited enough to play the under, but that would be my look.
Yeah, it scares the shit out of me just because of the way the Titans are defensively. I mean, if we think, look at what the Bears do against the Rams. Look at what the Bears do against the Saints. I think they could do. I think they can put up 23 plus points against the Titans. And my thinking is, if they put up 23 plus points against the Titans, they cover. So,
yeah, I just look again. I think I think these two teams are strength versus strength, a little more evenly matched, and it's why I kind of want to take the points in this and go with the Bears. But I mean, like you said, that not knowing how many players are going to be out because of COVID now is yeah, it's a tough call to make right now.
Yeah, the whole idea of beating the market has changed this year with COVID. Okay, so I am going to move on the Bears. I just don't know when. Bebsy, what's your plan on this game?
I can't play anything until I know what the COVID situation is. I still just I think that's too many points to give up right now. I think the Bears, unless they're decimated with COVID players, I like the Bears in this, and I lean the under. But I need to know more. This might be me revisiting this on Sunday.
There's a reason why I love this card so much this week. I didn't love the card last week. I had a real trouble on our Tuesday show, and then I started figuring stuff out as the week went on.